Hello, BookTube, and welcome to another edition of Book to Film. This week is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. That was published in 1971, and the William Friedkin film from 1973, The Exorcist. So, the book to film. And as I say, the book was published in 1971. I'll briefly go through. I'm not going to dwell on too many scenes or anything like that. For the plot basically is the main plot is a young girl, Reagan, is showing signs of she's 12 years old, and her mother is an actress, a very successful actress, filming in Georgetown, Washington D.C. basically, and Reagan starts showing signs of problems like health issues, maybe possibly mental issues, and she eventually it becomes known that she's possessed by a demon. And after taking her to a number of specialists, doctors, that don't seem to help her or are unable to help her because it's sort of nothing fully physical. So she, the mother, Chris, asks a priest, and a Catholic priest, Damien Karras, to perform an exorcist. He examines her and then finally decides that it is demonic possession, and he seeks the okay from the Catholic Church to perform an exorcist. And they bring in a older man, Lancaster Marin, who is actually in the prologue of this book. He's excavating in Iraq, and he is well aware of the demon. It's in ancient Mesopotamian mythology. It's Pazuzu, who is sort of the king of the demons, of the wind and so forth. They don't go into really any history of the mythology or the demon at all. There's really no information, but it's that's sort of the main back the where Blatty got this information from. And that's basically, and then they do the exorcist, the exorcism. Marin dies, and after a very lengthy, not very lengthy, about 4 or 5 days, I think it is, or several days anyway, the exorcism, he dies of a heart attack. He was on his last legs to begin with. And then Damien Karras gets possessed and commits suicide to save Reagan and the family from the demon. So that's basically the outline of the story. Now, I had seen the film, must be 30 plus years ago, and enjoyed it. And I'd seen it maybe once or twice since then, but it's been a good 25 years, I think, since I've seen it. And I thought this was a good opportunity to read the book, and to do it as in it's October, and to do it as the book to film. Now, when I went into this, I wasn't aware that Peter Blatty had. Sorry, I'm looking for the original. Oh, here it is. Peter Blatty wrote the book in 1971. This is the original text of it, and then 40 years later, he rewrote it, changing dialogues, names, and adding a scene in it. So the way I decided to do it, with having both texts after finding out, I decided to read like a chapter in the original and then a chapter in the rewrite to see the differences. Uh, it was a bit torturous to do this. And I say that is because I know this is going to offend a lot of lovers of this book, that Blatty is a poor writer. He he I just couldn't believe the mistakes that were in this, and even in the later one, grammatical errors that and awkwardness of phrasing. He's trying to be at times poetic and wording, and it just doesn't fit because he's going on with normal um writing, and then he tries to do something that's a bit poetical, and it stands out like a sore thumb, and it's just doesn't work. There are so many things with regards to how the pacing of it is that doesn't work. Like like in one sentence the character's in New York, and then the next sentence he's back in Georgetown, and you just sort of going, whoa, wait a minute, you got to read back, do this, and he just has no conception of transitioning scenes in writing. It's very different in film, and he did come from a background of writing scripts, so I think that might be why. But that's where an editor should have um, caught this, but they didn't. And other difference is he changes names of things, and he's trying to make things that are names that are similar to, like, even a dog that's similar to Reagan Reggie, changes it from Ginger, and it just things like that is just, come on. And the dialogue at times is so stilted and awkward, that I just, I found it painful at times to read certain sections. And he also added like a 6-page scene with a new character that is like, well, I know what you're trying to do, but it's not needed. It's just bumph, you know. And there's all these other subplots that he's trying. See, like, I went into this, and a lot of people that I see is that this book is about demonic possession. It's not. That is a plot for this, and Blatty had said in other supplementary reading that I'd done and looked up, that he sort of was trying to say that there's evil in the world, and that if you have faith, you will get through to that and everything will be okay. And the evil in the world allows people to do bad things. So the purpose of the demon in possessing Reagan is not the possession. It's to cause strife and doubt and loss of faith in others around them, including the priests, and working on this, psychologically working on this. And this is permeate. He tries to permeate. Well, he does permeate the story with these other subplots, but very poorly. It's not clear, because as I'm reading this and I'm going, well, is this what is happening? But it's not clear, because he just sort of goes back and forth for this. And then I find out, like, by reading like Mark Commode's The Exorcist, and the BFI film guides, and he talks about the sort of the reason for this, and Blatty's ideas, and other things that I read, including this here. Get it out here. It's The Exorcist, the Out of the Shadows, the full story of the film, and this is what Blatty had wanted to do, and he just didn't do it. It just fractured for that. So basically, you could have thrown out a lot of like a whole character, especially the Kinderman character. It's so awkward, his dialogue. It's bad. Like, he's trying to create a policeman who is like a Columbo type that sounds bumbling but is really smart. But this guy is just like it's the way he does it is just it doesn't work. And there's it just it just goes on and on with so many things like that. Um, and the other thing is, like, I thought was kind of interesting because the Damien Karras character kept talking about how, you know, the Catholic Church isn't going to accept anything. They need proof. They've got to exhaust the medical point, and he's a psychiatrist, so he, you know, they've got to exhaust it, and then he's got a petition for this, and you know, it sounds like it's, you know, he's saying that it's a long process. It takes a long time. So when he finally decides that it is demonic possession, he walks into the to the president of the university. I want an exorcist. Okay, you got it. There's nothing else. Like, it's just nothing else happens. It's like it does show like there is a slight little scene where he's coming back from seeing, I think, the head of his college, or the head of the Jesuits there, that he's saying he's tired. Now, there's just like 2 or 3 words there. Now, is Blatty hinting that he fought for this? If he has, again, this is poor writing because he's not made it clear, and even those few words don't do anything because he's been doing all this stuff. He's been at nighttime going to Reagan's, and he's been trying to research all sorts of stuff. So he's going to be tired. So it's not clear. So I say he didn't have any problem. So what's the buildup? What was the buildup? That's, again, bad writing. As simple as that, because he's trying to say something, he doesn't do it. What I thought would have been much better would have been, you know, scenes of him, you know, petitioning for this and arguing for the case. That would have been really interesting, or at least alluding to it. There's no, like, you know, they say he has to do this, and then he doesn't do it. And then there's this character that comes in while he's, you know, was it a dream? Wasn't it a dream? And all this kind of stuff. And he's, you know, it's pretty clear that it's the demon that is sort of manifested itself either in his dream or physically can't come in, because there is the fact that the demon leaves some cigarettes that he didn't have. And then the demon warns him against one of the that are in the household, the Chris's secretary. And it's like, why? Nothing happens from that. Nothing whatsoever happens from that. And it's like, and it's just bad writing too. It's like he ends a chapter, like, I mean, the very first one here, he's saying, yeah, it's like, you know, the prologue ends here. He hastened toward Mosul and his train, his heart encased in an icy conviction that soon he would face an ancient enemy. The only thing that's missing there is the music, dum dum dum, and then he just continually does this. He continually does this. He ends another chapter saying, "Oh, the long night begins." Dum dum dum. It's like, we don't need this. It's just bad. It's hack writing. It's hack writing. Simple as that. And as I say, you could go on for hours picking out stuff that is so bad. However, there are some very, very good points in it, despite all that. The Damien Karras character, the priest, is very good. He's a priest that he sort of is losing, if not lost, his faith, or potentially has lost his faith. And he's got this guilt-ridden aspect that he wasn't there for his mother who died. That, you know, because she refuses to leave her apartment, and she has a fall, and they have to sedate her to get her to the hospital. But she's so adamant and, well, angry. So this is the time where, okay, hospital's not going to deal with it. Throw her in a psych hospital. You know, so he's feeling guilty about this, and then she dies, you know, and he's feeling guilty that he's not there. He wasn't able to do anything. So he's very guilt-ridden. But on the second chapter, the first part, it's very short. It's like 5-6 pages long. And it's a scene where Karras is going to London. He's going to do a lecture, and he's in the subway, and he sees this bum, who's actually sitting in his own urine, drunk, and is asking him for some money. So and there's other scenes, and then he goes to stay with his mother for the night or however long. Again, time is, you don't know how long this is. You assume it's a day or just an evening, but it's the writing that is not clear. But anyway, all this 5 pages. When you learn these other things about Damien Karras, you can look back on this chapter, and you could see everything visually described of Damien Karras in those 5 pages. And I think that was brilliantly done. The only problem with it is like one sentence he's in New York, then all of a sudden the next sentence he's back in Georgetown. It's like, well, wait a minute, where is he here? He's in New York, and then all of a sudden, there's no sense of time change. It's I think William Peter Blatty, was so used to writing film that you can do that with scenes. You go from one scene to another, visually what's happening. But in a book, it doesn't quite work that well when you do that kind of thing. So you have to do something else. And this is where editors should have caught this, and they should have caught a myriad of grammatical errors, awkward sentencing, missing words that you're going, wait a minute, what does that just say? Then you got to reread it, and you go, oh, that must be what he means. But he hasn't said that because he's missed a word or two, or he's got it front to back. And he does that with the dialogue. But anyway, I enjoyed it despite all that, and I think it's mainly because of the film, because the memories of the film that allow me to enjoy the book. If I was reading this book standalone, I would not have liked it. I probably would never have finished it. I wouldn't have finished it. Because it's just, I just would see it as he's trying to do something, he's being sensational, and that hadn't been done before. Now, he says that it was based on a 1949 incident of a 10-year-old boy, I think it was, that was possessed, and it was written in the Catholic newspapers, and then the national media picked it up, and it became a big story. He wanted originally to help the priest who was at the exorcism, that did the exorcism, to write a non-fiction book about this, because Blatty is Catholic. He believes in demonic possession. So he wanted to do this, but he couldn't get access to it. The family wanted an anonymity and everything. So he couldn't do it. So the next thing, he created Reagan and everything else for this, and relying heavily on this, and possibly on a couple other books that were written about exorcism. And it was a huge success. It wasn't selling at all, and apparently he couldn't. Well, the publishers kept saying everything was being sent back. And he was in New York City, and he was bumped from the Dick Cavett show. But then the writer that they did choose to be on couldn't make it at the last second. And they went through 20 other writers before they got to him, and he was the only one they could find that he was close enough to actually fill in for this. So he gets on the show basically by chance. And it turned out that the other guests before were just so boring that they cut them short. So he spent 40 minutes apparently. I've never seen the clip, but he spent 40 minutes talking about his book, and then it started selling. So he was very lucky with that. But he talks about that it was like providence and everything, and about when he was writing it, where his mother had died while he was writing this, and then he went in somewhere, he fell asleep with one I think St. Christopher medal on a chain around his neck, and he woke up with another medal that his mother always wore. So that was a sign, his mother telling him to write the story. Okay, well, if you believe that, fine. I don't. I think, but anyway. So yeah, so there's the story. Now we come to the film. And he wanted to have this done, and he wanted to write the screenplay and produce it himself, because he had done producing. And trying to find here the film. There's the film there. And Ellen Burstyn plays Chris, the mother. Linda Blair, the daughter, the possessed child. Max von Sydow plays Father Marin. Jason Miller plays Father Karras. Lee J. Cobb plays Lieutenant Kinderman. Lee J. Cobb is really good, and they fixed up the character. Here's the script. So it's pretty big. His original script was even bigger than this. It was like 200 and some pages. And Blatty chose Friedkin to direct the film. And because they'd worked together before, but very sort of well, at least he knew about him, but he knew that Friedkin was very adamant and knew how he liked things, but also too that Friedkin was religious. He was Jewish, and Blatty seemed to think that you can only really understand this book as if you're Catholic or Jewish. That's a quote that's from this book here, The Exorcist, Out of the Shadows, full story of the film by Bob McCabe. Okay, so that's okay, fine. So we got him, and it's Warner Brothers are footing the bill. So they do it, and he the sort of final cut that was submitted was 2 hours and about 15 minutes long, and it was too long. He had to cut it down to about 2 hours. Friedkin did. So he took out a lot of the exposition, places like things, because his idea was, you've just seen something in there, you've seen the aspect of it, and they've talked about it during the exorcism. Why do you need a scene outside of the room of them sitting on the stairs, Father Marin and Father Karras, talking about what they just saw, like the same thing? You've seen this, and with the cutting of the pictures, you see this, where he says, the demon is there for not so much for possession, but to cause strife and problems with around them. And they show that, and then they cut to a scene of Chris, the mother. She's needleworking, but you can tell she's distressed and everything, and that's exactly all you need. It's all there. They cut out the first doctor's scene, and they've just left it with Reagan asking, after she urinates on the carpet at a party, and she asks her mother, "What's wrong with me?" And she says, "Well, you know what the doctors have said." So, yeah, you don't really need the first scene. You can fill that in as a viewer. So Friedkin worked that way all the way through, but Blatty hated this. He wanted it to be clear. He wants basically to treat the audience as stupid, and to say that to show what happened, but then to tell it. You see, this is where Friedkin worked as a director, that you actually show, don't tell. And he did that brilliantly in the 2 hour cut. Just so much stuff. And then this here collection has, they don't call it the director's cut, but it's they call it the version you've never seen, or something like that. And then they tried to put back all those scenes, but there was a few that didn't have any sound, so they couldn't do it. So there was a couple scenes, and there was another scene that they couldn't technically do, or at least make it look real on the screen, was Reagan doing, they call it the spider walk down the stairs upside down and then spitting out blood. Because they had wires, and because it was going by the banisters on the thing, you could have easily seen the wires, and they figured, they couldn't do this. But because of, 21st century digitization, they were able to get that scene back, fix it up, take out the wires, and I don't think it's really needed, but I could see that it would have been a real shock value actually where it is in the film, because it's as soon as she finds out that the director had died, and then all of a sudden she comes down the stairs with it because she's there's she's dealing with everything for the daughter, and then she finds out this other horrific news that the director, her friend, had died, and then Reagan comes down the stairs like this. Yeah, it's a very shocking scene. But a lot of the other scenes, I'm not going to go into too much detail. If you're interested, you can watch this. I just think that the original cut is very good because Blatty got to the heart of the story and what Blatty was saying, and it's all visually there. However, apparently, audiences generally didn't understand it. I saw this when I was 14 or 15 years old, or even maybe a bit younger than that. And I had no problem understanding it with the ending of how, he takes the demon inside him, and then he gains control for a few seconds to throw himself out of the window. So it's sort of, there is the conquer of good over evil. So you don't sort of need this. But apparently people didn't understand the ending. They didn't understand a lot of the stuff. They didn't understand, well, why is she sick? Well, you find out why she's sick, but you realize she is sick because you're told that she's been to doctors. It's all there. But again, I guess Blatty is right. You treat the audience as stupid, or not very clear, and maybe that's the way it is. But with a skilled director, you don't need to do that, and that's why there's just so many scenes that are put back into here that just you don't need them. They're superfluous. The opening scene is fabulous though, because they actually shot in Iraq, and it's fabulous with Max von Sydow, and he's playing 70 some years old, but he was only in his 40s, and the makeup is really good. Like, there are times because of the lighting, but he looks pale, but it fits with him because he's ill. Like, he's got a heart condition. He's taking nitroglycerin tablets under his tongue, so all that works. And the music and everything just works throughout. It's Mike Oldfield, the Tubular Bells, which is throughout, and Friedkin, just like with the juxtaposition of scenes and referring back to things, like while they're in Iraq, they actually filmed stuff that were happening at the time. So I'm assuming this scene was probably a real scene. Or at least they saw it, and they might have had it staged a little better for the filming. But it was like a blacksmith on an anvil, and it's like, there's the story of the anvil of Nineveh and blah blah blah. But one of the characters pulls back and sort of wipes sweat off, and he's got a white eye. He's blind in one eye, and that sort of is, it's focused in on that onto his face. So that's like, it comes back to when Reagan, her eyes roll up and they're white. So there's a reference to that, and there's like billowing of the gowns of nuns going by in the wind, and then like the billowing of the curtains, because the window does have a purpose, because Reagan throws, she kills and throws, as possessed, kills and throws the Burke Dennings out the window. And then that's where, again, Father Karras jumps out the window. So all these things are, there's a lot of things like this, and a skillful director, he's done this, And when you watch it, like sometimes it's subconsciously, but it adds up. And then when you rewatch it, you go, oh, that's interesting. That's, he's done this here, but oh, he did that earlier. That's interesting. There's a connection there, the textuality. Um, and that's part of the thing I love about film and good directors. And William Friedkin knew what he was doing. He just come out of finishing and winning an Oscar for The French Connection, which, by the way, has the best car chase scene by bar none in any film that's ever been done. Is in the French Connection. Anyway, but yeah, no, it's a fabulous film. There's a ton of extras on this. There's two commentaries on the original film. There's a commentary on the extended versions. There's all this extra material of the background and, a then and now of Georgetown, and talking to like Linda Blair and other actors. And Friedkin. Friedkin does an introduction to it as well. Yeah, it's a great film. It's not for the squeamish, that's for sure. And there's a lot of bad language in it, strong language, I guess you would say. But it's in the film. It's handled extremely well. Uh, and but I would say watch the film, don't read the book. But if you're interested in that kind of thing and in getting shocks, and you're of the mind, then yeah, you might like the book as well. But I would say the film, this is one of the few cases that I will say the film outshines big time the book. Usually a lot of times I say that the film not ruins the book, but sometimes it's they could have done some other things in the film that they didn't. And then other times, like the Innocents, the last week's Innocents and Turn of the Screw, they both complement each other extremely well, because you've got a talented writer that writes something and for the book, and then you've got an extremely talented director and screenwriter that adapts and changes and does things into the in visually that is comparable to what is done verbally. I mean, in words in the book. In this case, he adapted and he did things in here that are not in the book, and I mean not in that way in the book, but should have been. Anyway, that's it. Next week I'll be doing another one, but it'll be science fiction because of New World's November, and it will be The Thing, based on Who Goes There by John W. Campbell under the pseudonym of Don A. Stewart. Until then, have a good week, BookTube.